Hey everyone, it's Mark here. In this video, I'm going to go over a Chinese-made Richard Mille Homage watch. I'll give you my thoughts about the CIGA design Z series in titanium, and I'll give you my thoughts about whether it's something you might consider buying, my thoughts about its movement, about its aesthetics, and about what my thoughts are about the watch in general. And in short, I think it's a decent option. I don't mind the CIGA design skeletonized watches. They have an adequate enough movement. They feel nice enough. The aesthetics are reasonably well done. And while they do have a Richard Mille type homage vibe to them, they are in fact different, and to my mind a little bit less gaudy and a little bit less garish than some of the Richard Milles that cost a lot more money. Of course, the movements in them are obviously different. So I'll give you my overall thoughts on it. Now, if you have any thoughts about this watch, and if you have any thoughts about other microbands you'd like me to review, let me know those in the comments below. And otherwise, it would be great if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And alright, so here we have the boxes. We've got an aluminium box, which didn't come in its own separate outer box, which is actually a strap. I'll get to that later on. And then in the cardboard box, we have the watch itself. So let's start off with the watch, and then we'll go through the rest of it. So in terms of the watch, it's basically ordinary cardboard. On the front here, we have some plastic. I don't really know why it didn't have anything in it to begin with. Maybe it had this in it to begin with? I don't know, but whatever it was, I assume it must have had the strap in it to begin with, but it wasn't that way when it arrived. Then if we turn it around, it's kind of sealed up with sticky tape. Let's see if I can try to open this up. Sticky tape's always annoying. Alright, so let's use a car key. Or at least attempt to. There we go. So now I can try to open it up. So if we open up the watch here, inside it has some rather nice padded packaging, which is just as well since it came in from overseas. We can now move the cardboard. And removing some of this additional packaging, we've got quite a bit of plastic here that I can open up, attempt to open up. So there we go. And obviously it is in this further internal plastic, which you can kind of tell because it's shiny, which obviously one could use to sell it. I am going to be using this watch and reviewing it, so again, let's see if I can try to open up this plastic, which is easier said than done if I'm totally honest, particularly if you are not especially coordinated like me. And these plastic containers are always a little bit annoying to open up. I will eventually get some leverage, and I've managed to get in there to open the plastic, and we can start removing it. Hopefully. And we'll see if there's any more plastic inside. I suspect there could be, but you never know. There we go. Now, what you can immediately see is this container seems to be in reverse order, like I would normally think you'd pull it out on the right side. But in any case, it's a rather nice looking designed container. I think it looks quite professional. It kind of has this book type feeling to it. I actually think it's an attractive piece of packaging. It's certainly different from the standard box shapes you normally get. And it probably is a lot more efficient shipping-wise to ship it in this type of book-type format. Then we can open it up, or at least attempt to. It is slightly tricky to pull everything apart, to be honest. We can open it up, and then, again, we can open up further our packaging. Now, before we get in there, let's look at the outer of the box. Now, what you can immediately tell is we have this design for the watch itself on the outside. And it has like this shiny appearance to it. So obviously they've done this in kind of a silvery font here. And it's attractive. It's a nice representation of the watch. I think this is an attractive box here. I think it works well. I've definitely seen much worse. It is better than generic watch box. On the outside, on the back, just a white back here. And on the spine, it says, CIGA Design Skeleton Mechanical Watch Z Series. Now, like I said, this kind of does resemble a book, which in many ways is convenient, but of course it's a little bit different. Then we open it up, again like a book, and you can see we've got the watch inside. And it says here, get your watch ready. Take the watch head out, wind the crown clockwise for 30 forward turns, set up the time, install the straps on the watch head, turn to the next page for detailed user instruction manuals. And then further on, we have some detailed manuals here. and the watch managed to fall out, although that, to be fair, is not the fault of the watch. That is probably the fault more of the user than of the watch itself. Let's try to get it back in here. And then on the left-hand side, we have some basic instructions here. So some information about the watch itself. Now, as you can tell here, there's some information about the details, i.e. what the case is made of, the nature of the looking glass, stainless steel case, titanium case. This one is the titanium case, or at least that's what I ordered. So anyway, the titanium case is what I ordered here, and there's some other information. In terms of the movement, and I'll get to this later on, the movement is a CIGA AAA class self-winding mechanical movement, i.e. it's a Chinese manufactured movement. I don't personally have a major problem with this, because let's face it, China produces some good goods, so I don't think we can hold the place of manufacture against it. I have no particular innate issue with it being made in China. In any case, it says, CIGA is the largest watch movement manufacturer in China, with advanced movement design in production technology. AAA class is the strictest quality inspection standard for its movements. This self-winding mechanical movement is specifically designed and supplied to CIGA. So effectively, they're trying to get at the idea that maybe there's a unique-ish movement, at least in terms of its aesthetics. Then in the background here, or in the back, sorry, we have operation manual. This is a neat way of putting the operation manual together, to be honest. I kind of like that. Then what we have here is operations, winding. And this should be obvious, but anyway, it says winding. The new mechanical watch may stay still due to the lack of power in the movement. As shown in figure 1, twist the crown clockwise for 30 or more forward turns without pulling it out. And the watch will start to work when the movement reserve receives enough power. And we can go through to figure 2 and see what this looks like. Very nice illustrations, to be honest. Then further illustrations, we have set the time and then install the straps, which I guess is nice, although it seems they're quick release. We'll get to that in a second. And then further on here, we have daily maintenance. Overall, I'm really impressed with the packaging. While it isn't a traditional box or watch box shape, I think it looks professional. I think it looks elegant. It's certainly much neater and easier to store than a traditional watch box, because all of these watch boxes take up a lot of space. This is a lot easier. I'm quite satisfied with this. I'm happy with how this has been done, so I think it's a decent level of workmanship here. Everything inside feels quality. The paper or cardboard is heavy gauge. It's quite heavy. We've got here the watch itself. We've got one strap, which is a rubber strap. We've got one strap, which is a leather strap here. Then if we go over, like I've showed you, the illustrations are well done. They are attractive illustrations. I am, to be honest, pleasantly surprised by this, in that I didn't necessarily expect the quality of packaging that we have seen. Now, the question of course is, does the watch itself hold up in terms of its quality compared to what it actually looks like? So let's start exploring the watch itself. And as you can see here, before we get onto that, my one complaint about this packaging is the watch tends to move around quite a lot in here. And to store it, you would need to take off the straps. But again, if they're quick release, that's probably not so much of an issue. So let's start exploring the watch itself. Okay, so we can start our watch exploration by looking at the actual movement itself and the watch. Now what you'll see here is we have a skeletonized movement. It is going to be a little bit difficult to actually tell the time. And as you can tell, it's already started moving and I haven't actually wound it yet. So, difficult to tell the time, but I think attractive enough. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of skeleton movements, but at least looks interesting. Now, one can argue that, is this a Richard Mille copy? Well, that's for one to determine whether this is a Richard Mille homage or not. Certainly in their own advertising, they have alluded to this, where they have alluded to the idea that maybe this is a Richard Mille copy, and then they say we're flattered to be compared to Richard Mille, and blah 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 blah. Honestly, I don't like Richard Mille watches in terms of their design. I think they are a little bit gauche, a little bit ugly, and kind of gaudy. I think this is better. The reason I think it's better is because while it is difficult to read, all of the colors kind of work together and avoid looking too over the top. Whereas when you have too many different colors flying everywhere, everything looks busy and gaudy. So I think this actually works a little bit better. Now, in terms of the actual aesthetics here, now let's take off this plastic. Attempt to take off this plastic. Easier said than done. There we go. After taking off the plastic, what you can see is the hands themselves are red, while the second hand is red. The hour and minute hands have red accents. They are really difficult to see, to be honest. It is very difficult, and this is in pretty good lighting. So if you're looking to really be able to tell time with this, you might have some issues. But if you're okay with that, then this isn't bad. Now, if we go around to the side of the case here, it says CIGA design, and what you'll see here is there's this combination of polished and brushed titanium in this case. And again, I think that works well. Professionally finished. There do not appear to be any finishing errors as far as I can tell. Everything seems to be symmetrical, working perfectly okay. Around the side, again, this is kind of more of a brushed finish over here. And we have some exposed what look like screws. How functional these screws are, I don't know, and whether they're just aesthetic, that's another issue. Then on the front, of course, we have these possibly just aesthetic screws. Again, combination of brushed and polished titanium. Over here near the crown, we have quasi-crown guards. I don't know how much they'd really do in practice, but anyway, quasi-crown guards. Again, polished and brushed. The crown itself is signed with a C here for CIGA design, and it has some texturing grooves on here, which I'll get to in a second. Of course, it will be difficult to really do this with gloves on, so you'll have to witness the terrible state of my fingernails at that point. Now, on the back here, again, see-through, and we have some plastic on here, which I'll need to try to find how I actually remove this plastic, because it seems to be stuck down quite hard. How do I get to this? I need to find some purchase or some leverage, which is going to be easier said than done. Let's see. Well, there we go. Interesting. Let's see if I can remove it with my keyring. That'll be interesting. There we go. So there we go. Back of the case. Again, what I'd say here is attractive enough. It says titanium case, water resistant. The movement itself is not decorated very much. There is a little bit of finishing on the actual movement here, which I think looks attractive enough, but it isn't decorated in that it doesn't have CIGA design on it, for example. So that could be improved upon if they were to do future iterations of this, but I don't have anything negative really to say about it. It just could have maybe their logo on it or something to perhaps add a little bit more uniqueness. Again, around the back here, we have some screws, which are exposed. I don't have a problem with that. I think they work well. Now, if we look at the screws here, they seem to be aesthetic in nature. None of them seem to have any major tooling on them, i.e., it looks like they are in quite pristine condition, suggesting to my mind that they are maybe practical, but at least it's been done well. So overall, I'm quite satisfied with the quality of the finishing. Another interesting, unique thing here is these side appendages actually are raised off the rest of the case, which is interesting, and you can kind of see through them. Another unique, interesting thing about the crown is it has kind of a red stem, which I think is cool. So overall, pleasantly surprised by the nature of the design here. Now, the next question is how easy is it to install any of these straps? Because they are supposed to be quick release, it appears. So let's get the rubber strap, and I'll show you what it looks like later on with all of the different straps on it. But let's just try to install one of these, and then we can see how easy or not it is actually to install our quick release straps. So let's try to get this strap on. So what I'll need to do is I'll need to go around the back here, install there. Then I'm going to need to pull down on this quick release thing, and then it will hopefully go in once it finds the correct slot. And it's having difficulty finding the hole, which is a little bit annoying, but I'm sure it will get there eventually. We'll eventually find the hole. Done. Got it in there. Now let's go with the next strap. Alright, so what I do here is put one stem end in and try to get it into the hole. Then I'll go with the other part of the quick release, and then I'll attempt to get that in as well. And what you'll see is it's sometimes not the easiest, and I managed to get the other part out. Well, quick releases are quicker than normal installations, but it's still not like super quick. There we go. The strap is eventually on. I think it looks quite attractive with the rubber strap. I'll show you the other straps in a second, but that's effectively how you get it on. It really isn't that difficult. Maybe it's just my complete incompetence getting the strap on that's causing the problem. But that's basically how you'd go about doing it. Similarly with all of the other straps as well. Again, you do the same thing with the leather. I personally think this type of watch works a lot better with the rubber strap. Now, I mentioned before that in the what I assume to be aluminium case here, we actually have another strap, which I think in hindsight I must have ordered at the same time. Now, in our other strap here, we have a metal strap and seemingly some other tool which we can use in relation to it. But if they're quick release, I'm not sure exactly why I need the tool. But in any case, that's what we have here. Alright, so putting on the leather strap should hopefully be easy given what we have experienced with the rubber strap. So let's put it in here, and then we'll try to actually put it on. See if there's any efficiency gains. This one is much quicker. Again, put this one on here, see how it goes, and then we'll try to get this on. There we go. Again, we've got the leather strap. Honestly, I think it looks better with the rubber strap. But of course, let me know your thoughts about which one looks better in the comments below. I think the rubber one kind of works a little bit better with the nature of this watch. But in any case, I think it's reasonably attractive with the leather, but not quite as nice. So let's remove this and then go on to the metal. And we'll see whether the metal one is a little bit too busy in just 1 second. So there we go. Now we've got a metal bracelet type situation. And let's see how this works. Now hopefully this one will also be relatively easy to install, but it remains to be seen, to be honest. So we'll try to get this in, use our quick release, and then hopefully it will go in here. There we go. And then on the other side, again, hopefully our quick release. And we can try to get this in. And it will hopefully, there we go. Again, I think I put it on the wrong way, but it gives you the idea. It works okay with the metal bracelet or metal mesh bracelet. I again think it probably is a little bit nicer with the rubber. I think this is maybe a little bit too metally, maybe a little bit too blingy for want of a better word than the other one, but I don't mind the look of it with the metal mesh. I think it functions okay, but I think the contrast from the black does better service to the watch than the metal itself. So hence why I'd probably wear this on the rubber, but it is nice to have variety. Now we can also check out the watch size here. Now it is obviously a rectangle shape. So if we're looking at it lug to lug here, we are looking at around 37.5 millimeters. If we're looking at it across, including the crown at its longest point, 44 millimeters. So it is quite a large watch here, about 44 millimeters anyway. In terms of the lug width, well, that of course is much smaller. So we're looking at approximately 22 millimeters lug width. So it is going to wear reasonably large. So if you're looking for a small watch, this is not going to be it. But it's not like over the top compared to some of the Panerais and the like. So I'd say it's not like a gargantuan and insane size, but it certainly is on the bigger side. How then does the watch wear on my wrist? Well, for perspective, what I'm currently wearing is a 36mm Rolex Datejust. So we can now compare that to the CIGA design watch. Now, you can see it works okay in my wrist. It certainly is not small, but it doesn't look too big. I probably wouldn't go any bigger than this watch. There is a tiny bit of overhang maybe, but it's not insane. I think it works adequately well. So if you're in the market for a watch that's on the bigger side, this probably should work okay on your wrist. but very small wristed people need not apply for this watch. So let's now discuss the movement. So what you can see here, again, automatic watch, unsurprising. Now, in order to actually get it working, we'd need to wind it. So obviously it has winding, and you can kind of possibly hear it. It's obviously a bit of resistance as it's winding up. Now, in order to set the time, we can pull out the crown. That was pretty easy to pull it out, to be honest. And then we can just wind it around as per normal. Doesn't really matter what we set it at for our purposes. You can immediately see as well that it has hacking. The second hand has stopped. So we can just wind it around, and it seems to work. There is no resistance. Obviously bidirectional, thankfully, because that would be really stupid if it weren't. And it only has one crown setting. At least one from what I can see here. Now, the crown itself doesn't need to be pulled out that far, but certainly it's easy enough to do. The texturing on it makes it very easy to pull out the crown. It's one of the easier ones that I've done. Now, obviously it's pull out rather than screw out. Whether or not that's an issue for you depends on what you need it for. But that's effectively how it works. Now, the actual seagull movement, we actually have some information about in our booklet, which is super helpful. So let's go aside here. It says, Seagull AAA class self-winding mechanical movement. Up to 40 hours power reserve. 21,600 oscillations per hour. 25 joules accuracy within -15 to +30 seconds per 24 hours. So what we're seeing here is, again, relatively standard parameters and specifications for a watch of this price point. I'd say it's perfectly adequate, particularly for what you're paying, but I wouldn't have any particular complaints about it. It's 25 joules, but it only has, well, no complications, really. Like, it doesn't have a date function or anything like that. So you wouldn't really expect anything more complicated. 40-hour power reserve is also quite good. So again, I'd say movement-wise, there isn't terribly much else to say about it. It's a pretty workhorse movement from Seagull. Nothing negative really about the movement. It seems adequate enough for what it is. Perfectly fine is my opinion of it. So my overall thoughts are, it has a decent enough workhorse movement. I have no real complaints or issues with the movement. Perfectly fine for this price point. I don't see any particular difference between it and, say, a Sellita or Miyota or whatever. So I don't have any particular issues with the movement. In terms of the actual aesthetics, I think it's attractive enough. I think it definitely has some Richard Mille type homage vibes to it, but I don't think it's ugly. I think it is different from the Richard Mille, and I, in many ways, do slightly prefer the look of it. But that's mainly because I find the Richard Mille's a little bit over the top and a little bit too busy. So overall, would I consider buying this? The answer is yes, I obviously did. I'm satisfied with the purchase. It will give me some variety. It was certainly decent enough value for what I bought it at, and they can still be picked up, possibly via their crowdfunding campaign still, but if not, via their website. And I'll try to link that, or at least link to a model like this in the description below, so you can try to check those out. And otherwise, hope the video has been informative to you. If you have any thoughts about this watch, let me know those in the comments below. And otherwise, of course, it would be great if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And hopefully I'll see you next time as well. Bye!